Hello there, I do hope you're doing well. My name is Aaron and I am a Year 11 GCSE student as well as an entrepreneur on the side. Today's video, I am going to be taking you through, especially if you're in Year 10, the GCSE English Literature qualification. It's a revision video. And in today's video, we are specifically going to be looking at impressions questions. Now, when I talk about impressions questions, know that I am using a specific book or play because it's a book and play. But this applies for basically anything, no matter what book you're studying, what a novel you're studying, anything like that. So, first of all, the thing that we're going to be looking at is Blood Brothers. Now, Blood Brothers is a play. It was written a long time ago, but it's also got a book, but then more like, it gives you stage directions and stuff like that. And the question that we're going to be aiming to answer by the end of this session is, what impressions do you get of Mrs. Johnston from the extract below? And, excuse me. And usually impressions questions are weaved into extract questions. So you'll get an extract and it'll say something like, what does the extract tell you about the characters? Or specifically, it might use the words impression. What impressions do you get of so-and-so in the following extract? Usually extracts are 10 marks, at least at GCSE level. However, this isn't going to be worth 10 marks. We're not going to be marking it for 10 marks because it is only a short passage. This is only me using it as an example to help you with revision. So, let's talk a little bit about how you can nail impressions questions every single time. Now, not bragging, but when I was doing English literature for a GCSE, I was getting 8, 9, sometimes even full marks on my impressions questions. That's why I'm making this video to help you guys. The basic thing is you've got to you've got to use what you've been taught. We've all been taught P, point, evidence, explain, since Year 7. It's been drilled into us. Just use it. Exactly what you need. So you need a strong point. You need 1 or 2 pieces of evidence from the text. So in this case, we're using things like quotes or stage directions or interactions between characters. And then you want to explain those pieces of evidence and how they support your original point. So you really want to be digging into different things. We're going to learn a little bit more about the vocabulary and the analysis of the language that the author is using. Now, do not be a fool. You have to read the question. If it's asking you for impressions of something, you are being asked what you think about it. And that's exactly what it says on the slideshow. It's initial thoughts, basically. But how do you form these impressions? It's so important that you use the things that are given to you in the extract, whether that's what the author has written, how they've described a character or a setting, what setting the character is in, the surroundings. There are so many different things that you can use to develop your impressions and your points further. Now, again, this is only a short video, so in a minute, I'm going to turn my camera off and we are going to annotate this section together, and we're just going to go through and we're going to pick out key bits that we can write about. But before we do that, I've got some points on the slideshow. So you've got to look for a few different things. In this one, are we looking at just the narrator? So think about that. Is it just the narrator that we're writing about, or are we including other people as well? Could there be other people that we could be talking about? How? So you want to think about, again, what does the author use? What sort of language, what sort of techniques does he use to make Mrs. Johnston seem to us as a cruel character? And even if you're not studying Blood Brothers, right, this is a great exercise to be getting into, as a practice paper, for example. And then again, the last point, as I mentioned earlier, the language that's being used. The author isn't using, oh, Mrs. Johnston is bad. He's saying all sorts of different things. He's saying that she's got a stone in place of her heart. He's saying that she's a mother that's so cruel. So that is what we want to be thinking about. So I'm going to switch it around now and we're going to go through it together. So we are now with the extract and we're going to go through and annotate together. So I'm just going to get my highlighters out. And again, it is recommended when you go into the exam that you do have highlighters. You don't have to. You can just use your pen and make different codes, like squiggly lines, like straight lines for different things. But we're going to get straight into it. So the first thing that it says is Mrs. Johnston enters with her back to the audience. Now, something important to remember is that because this is a play, these are stage directions. They're stage directions, which means that we are actually able to use these in our analysis. We don't just leave them out because they can be important. And in this case, very, very important. If she's entering with her back to the audience, what does that sort of tell us about the audience themselves? Could they be talking about her? And these few points will be supported as we go through. If she's entering, they could be talking about her. This could sort of be like, you know, a sort of a metaphorical picture of the fact that everyone knows what kind of person she is. So there's a pre-built image on her. Which again links nicely in with that point there about people talking with her. Then we go to the narrator. And did you never hear of the mother so cruel? There's a stone in place of her heart. Then bring her on and come judge for yourselves how she came to play this part. So, first of all, let's have a look at the words used here. You've got mother and cruel. Cruel is an adjective. But it's the fact that these two words are so contrasting, because when you think of a mother, you're thinking of maternal, you're thinking of loving, you're thinking of all these different qualities that make a mother. If I just clear up some space there, you've got things like, you know, kindness. And that is a complete opposite to what we're being told Mrs. Johnston is. So although it's describing her as a mother, it's telling us that she's, in fact, not got those motherly, maternal instincts from the beginning. And I'm just going to list a few examples. And it's really important that we bring out that the writer is using an adjective, because again, that's when those are where the marks come from. The exam board want to be able to see that you're able to pick out specific words and identify them as a specific type of word. We move on to the next line. It says, there's a stone in place of her heart. So, a stone. What do we think of when we hear the word stone? You've got things like rough. There's nothing there. You've got things of like heartless. Because essentially what the author is saying here is that her heart has been taken out and been replaced with a stone. So, if the author is writing that her heart has been taken out, then really that can get us to think, that can bring up the word, for example, heartless. Then bring her on and come to judge for yourselves how she came to play this part. Again, judge for yourselves. This is sort of a little bit like, I want to say ironic, but not really. Basically, well, again, this supports the first part where it says that she had her back turned to the audience, because the narrator was the one who was obviously originally started it. So with him, when he started with, and did you never hear? That kind of reminds you of like the things where you hear when people are gossiping. It's like, oh, did you hear about so-and-so did this, that? So there's a very gossip-like, I'm going to call it gossip-like vocab. Probably not the best way to put it, but you get the gist. And then that then links in with the fact that it says judge for yourselves. It's almost as if you watch the play, you'll see how the narrator puts it. It's almost as if it's like a sarcastic tone. He's saying, well, come and see for yourself. So it's like, almost like it's common knowledge. It's common knowledge that she's cruel, and heartless. And then it's asking the audience to make a decision. Probably not how you spell decision, I've completely forgotten. Okay, now that we've annotated, let's go through and actually pick out some structures that are going to help you when you're writing your answers, because obviously you're going to want a basic format to what you're doing, I suppose. You're going to want a template, and that's why on this slide I've named it the template that got me an A-star, because honestly I did this every single time for an impressions question and it always got me basically 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. So the first thing is, again, we're bringing it back to point, evidence, explain. It's just reusing it and putting it into a lot more detail. The first thing, point, that's your main point. This doesn't have to be long and reams of writing. It's just something really simple. The example here, the author portrays Mrs. Johnston as a very cruel and bad mother at the beginning of Act 1. Again, it's not necessary. It's really helpful if you read the book or you look at the novel that you're studying beforehand, before you go into the exam yourself, so that you can get a feel for it and know what it's like tracking. Because really you want to be showing your understanding of the fact that you know what you're talking about. Then we got to look at the evidence. So the evidence is when you need to start pulling quotes and different things, different words, different word types from the actual text. And in this example, we've used the adjective and implies. So you want to be using sort of language that shows this is what you think and this is what could be happening. We've got things like the quote, stone in place of her heart. And yeah, so again, with the adjective, that's the language analysis marks being hit. And I'm going to show you a final answer to this section. But if we first of all look at the evidence, so whereas the first part, this is shown by the adjective cruel, which implies that Mrs. Johnston willfully caused pain to the people, or in this case, her children. 1. So by using the adjective cruel, Russell, which is the writer, makes Mrs. Johnston seem as a nasty or spiteful person to those around her. This idea is supported when Russell writes about the stone in place of her heart. Stones are hard and difficult to break, which implies that she has a firm and hard heart, which could mean that she does not easily get emotional, but rather is ruthless to mask her emotions. In addition, the fact that Russell has removed her heart implies that she's heartless. And something that I didn't include in this, which we talked about in the annotations, was that the fact that, you know, she hasn't got this maternal, this motherly instinct about her, because she's being described as these cruel, which is the complete opposite of the mother, the word mother, which is used. And then this part here where it talks about Mrs. Johnston being, her back being turned to us. Again, we can write about stage directions because that support the impression. It says, when Mrs. Johnston enters with her back turned, it's a metaphor for how she's being talked about and how she's being judged. And then again, we link that because you can always link points. I found that in English Lit, you can always link points. The idea that this could also be the reason why she is heartless, because she knows what people say about her and she's learned to sort of ignore it and block it out. Which, again, metaphorically speaking, that's replacing her heart with a stone which feels nothing. And that is the overall sort of section, I want to call it, for this particular one. Now, I do have a freebie. If you're watching this, you can go down in the link below, and I have these sheets. So it's probably not the best to see because you've got my camera in the face, my face on the screen. But I've made these for free where you can literally just go in, print these out. You can print them like 4 to a page. I've already got them inserted, but it's a bit not clear. And it's just a basic template for you to get started writing these impressions questions. I'm planning on making a lot more templates in the future, but this is just something that I made quickly that I thought you would find helpful. So that's it for today's video. In the next session, we're going to look at themes and how we can pick out different themes in the different stories. Again, we're going to be using Blood Brothers because that's what I used to do in my GCSEs. But yeah, in terms of the video, I hope you found it useful. If you did, please leave a comment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. But until then, happy revising, and I'll catch you in the next one.